As I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, the sunlight filtering through the curtains, I felt a sense of dread wash over me. I had just returned from work, my mind still preoccupied with the mundane details of the day. But something felt off. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, and a nagging feeling in my gut urged me to investigate further. I glanced around, my eyes landing on my wife, Sarah, sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone in hand. It was the way she was biting her lip, a habit of hers when she was nervous, that sent alarm bells ringing in my mind. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I might discover. "Hey, honey," I said casually, trying to mask the anxiety coursing through me. "What's up?" She looked up, her eyes wide, and for a brief moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt. "Oh, just scrolling through some stuff," she replied, her voice a little too high-pitched. I nodded, but my instincts screamed that something was amiss. Later that evening, while she was in the shower, I made the fateful decision to glance at her phone. I had never invaded her privacy before, but an insatiable curiosity compelled me. As I unlocked her phone, my heart raced, messages, photos, and a name that sent a jolt of electricity through my veins: Jake, the tattoo artist. I scrolled through the messages, the words blurring into a haze as the weight of betrayal crashed down on me. "I can't stop thinking about you," one message read. "You're like a breath of fresh air." My heart sank. The realization that my wife had been unfaithful to me, with a tattoo artist no less, sent a wave of nausea through my stomach. My mind raced with questions. How long had this been going on? What had I done wrong? When Sarah emerged from the bathroom, I was still reeling from the discovery. The confrontation was inevitable. I caught her gaze, my heart pounding in my chest. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of pain. She froze, her eyes darting to her phone, and in that moment I knew she understood. "About what?" she asked, feigning ignorance. "About Jake," I said, the name tasting bitter on my tongue. Her expression shifted, the color draining from her face. "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb with me, Sarah. I know about the text. I know about your affair." The words hung heavy in the air, and I could see the realization dawning on her. Tears filled her eyes as she sank onto the bed, her hands trembling. I'm so sorry," she whispered, but her apology felt hollow. Sorry doesn't cut it," I shot back, feeling the anger bubbling to the surface. "How could you do this to us, to our life together?" As she sobbed, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, and a profound sadness that threatened to swallow me whole. The woman I loved had shattered our trust, and I was left standing in the ruins, grappling with the reality of her infidelity. In that moment, I realized that my world had irrevocably changed. My heart raced with a blend of rage and heartbreak, and I knew I had to take control of the situation. This wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about reclaiming my dignity and ensuring she understood the gravity of her actions. What would I do next? I didn't know yet, but the seed of revenge was planted, and it began to grow, intertwining with my feelings of hurt and anger. In the days that followed, I was a ghost of my former self. I went through the motions of daily life: work, chores, and forced conversations with Sarah, while my mind was consumed by images of her and Jake. I couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy that settled in my chest like a heavy stone. What did he have that I did? Was it the allure of the unknown, the thrill of a new relationship? I found myself spiraling down a rabbit hole of insecurities, replaying every moment of our marriage, scrutinizing the cracks that had formed beneath the surface. Sarah and I had been married for 6 years, and while I thought we had built a solid foundation, I began to question everything. I had always known her as the adventurous type, but I had never imagined she would seek that adventure in the arms of another man. The tattoo artist had become a symbol of everything I felt I was not: free-spirited, creative, and desirable in a way that I had failed to be. I learned more about Jake through the fragments of conversation I could glean from Sarah. He was in his late 20s, covered in tattoos, with an edgy style that screamed rebellion. I could picture him, charming and confident, drawing Sarah in with promises of excitement and spontaneity. She had always loved the thrill of the unknown, the rush of living on the edge. The more I thought about him, the more I felt like a shadow, an echo of the man I used to be. One night, as I lay awake in bed, I couldn't stop the thoughts from swirling in my mind. I imagined Sarah laughing with him, sharing intimate moments that should have been ours. The jealousy gnawed at me, igniting a fire of anger that I had never felt before. I wanted to confront Jake to make him understand the pain he had caused, but I knew that wouldn't bring me any peace. It wouldn't change what had happened. Instead, I started to formulate a plan. If Sarah had chosen to betray me, I would make sure she would remember her mistake. I didn't want to hurt her physically or emotionally in a way that would haunt me, but I wanted to leave a mark, a reminder of what she had done. I envisioned a tattoo, something that would be a permanent reminder of her infidelity. It was a twisted sense of justice, but the more I thought about it, the more it felt like the only way to regain my power. The next day, I found myself driving to the tattoo parlor where Jake worked. My heart raced as I approached the building, a mix of apprehension and determination coursing through me. I had no idea how this would unfold, but I was resolute. I stepped inside, the faint smell of ink and antiseptic filling the air. The shop was decorated with vibrant artwork, showcasing the talent of the artists within. Jake was at the front desk, his sleeves rolled up to reveal the intricate tattoos that covered his arms. He looked up, a smile spreading across his face as he recognized me. "Hey man, what can I do for you?" I hesitated for a moment, my mind racing with the words I wanted to say, but instead of confronting him, I decided to play it cool. "I need to talk to you about Sarah," I said, my voice steady. His expression shifted slightly, a flicker of concern crossing his face. "Oh sure, what about her?" I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I know about the affair," I said, watching his reaction closely. He didn't deny it, which only fueled the fire inside me. "And I want you to do something for her, something that will make her remember this mistake for the rest of her life." Jake raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued but wary. "What are you talking about?" I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. "I want you to give her a tattoo, a permanent reminder of what she did, something that symbolizes her betrayal. I want her to feel the weight of her choice every single day." He paused, studying me. "That's a pretty heavy request, man. You sure about this?" I nodded, a sense of purpose washing over me. "I'm positive. I want her to understand what she lost, what she threw away for a fleeting moment of excitement." Jake seemed to consider my words for a moment before nodding slowly. "All right, I'll do it, but you need to be there when she comes in. I won't do it behind her back." I agreed, a dark satisfaction settling in my chest. This was my plan, my way of reclaiming the power that had been stripped from me. As I left the tattoo parlor, I felt a sense of resolve. I was no longer the victim. I was taking control of my narrative. What I didn't realize was that this act of revenge would set off a chain of events that would change everything between Sarah and me. The next few days were a blur of anticipation and anxiety. I could barely focus on work, my mind racing with thoughts of the tattoo and how Sarah would react. I didn't share my plan with her. Instead, I watched her closely, observing her every move, trying to gauge her feelings about our marriage and the affair. She seemed remorseful, often apologizing and attempting to rekindle our connection. But every time she touched me, it felt like a lie. A part of me wanted to forgive her, to move past this, but the deeper part of me craved justice. When the day finally arrived, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. I had told Sarah that I wanted to take her to a special place to help us reconnect, a small lie that felt increasingly heavy on my conscience. I picked her up after work, and she looked beautiful as always, though there was an undercurrent of tension in her smile. She had no idea what awaited her. As we drove to the tattoo parlor, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I was both nervous and exhilarated. Part of me was terrified of what I was about to do, while another part reveled in the idea of giving her a permanent reminder of her betrayal. I glanced at her, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "Where are we going?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "You'll see," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. When we arrived at the tattoo shop, Sarah looked confused. I could see the questions forming in her mind as she glanced around the colorful walls adorned with artwork and the buzzing sound of tattoo machines. "This place looks familiar," she said, her brow furrowing. Yeah, I thought we could try something new together, I said, forcing a smile. Jake was waiting for us, a casual demeanor masking the tension that hung in the air. Hey Sarah, good to see you again, he greeted her, and I could see her expression shift slightly, a flash of discomfort crossing her face. Hey, she replied hesitantly, her eyes darting between Jake and me. I stepped forward, my heart racing. So we discussed the tattoo, right? I said, looking at Jake, who nodded in agreement. Sarah's confusion deepened. Tattoo? What are you talking about? I turned to her, my voice steady but firm. I think it's time for you to get a reminder of the choices you've made, Sarah. A tattoo that symbolizes your infidelity. Her eyes widened, and for a moment I saw a flicker of panic. You can't be serious, she whispered, her voice trembling. I am, I replied, feeling a surge of adrenaline. You need to understand the gravity of what you've done. This isn't just about you and Jake, it's about us, our marriage. Jake chimed in, trying to ease the tension. I can create something meaningful, something that resonates with your experience. It'll be a reminder, yes, but it can also be a step towards healing if you choose to see it that way. Sarah looked between us, her breathing quickening. You're really going through with this? I nodded, my heart racing. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions. With a resigned sigh, she finally relented. Fine. If this is what you want, let's just get it over with. As she walked toward the tattoo chair, I felt a wave of satisfaction mixed with a pang of guilt. This was the moment I had been waiting for, but seeing her vulnerability brought a strange heaviness to my heart. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, but I also wished that we could find a way to heal together. Jake began setting up his equipment, and as he prepared the design, I watched Sarah closely. She looked nervous, her fingers fidgeting as she glanced at the sketches on the wall. What are you thinking of getting? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought something like a broken heart, I suggested, watching her reaction carefully. She winced, and I felt a twinge of satisfaction. Or maybe something that represents the choices you've made, like a chain with a broken link. That sounds fitting, she murmured, her eyes downcast. As Jake started the tattoo, I could see the tension in Sarah's shoulders. The needle buzzed to life, and I felt an odd mix of emotions swirling within me. I wanted her to understand the pain she had caused, but a part of me also wished I could take it back. I wanted to scream at her for her betrayal, to make her feel everything I had felt since discovering the truth. With each stroke of the needle, I watched her face, noting the way her expressions shifted between pain and resignation. It was as if she were slowly coming to terms with the reality of her actions. This is really happening, she said softly, her voice trembling. Yes, it is, I replied, my heart racing. You need to remember this moment, Sarah. You chose this path, and now you'll carry it with you forever. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, and I felt a pang of guilt, but I had to remind myself of my purpose. This was my way of asserting my power back in a situation where I had felt completely powerless. As the tattoo took shape, I felt a sense of satisfaction mixed with an undercurrent of sadness. This was a turning point for us, and I couldn't help but wonder if it would lead to healing or further destruction. The tattooing process felt agonizingly slow, each buzz of the needle resonating in the silence of the room. I watched Sarah's face closely, her features shifting between discomfort and a profound sense of realization. The design Jake had chosen, a broken chain link intertwined with a heart, was both beautiful and haunting. It captured the essence of her betrayal in a way that felt almost poetic to me. As the needle pierced her skin, I noticed the way she flinched, the pain evident in her eyes. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction wash over me, knowing that she was finally confronting the weight of her actions. This was no longer just about infidelity. It was about understanding the consequences of choices made in moments of weakness. Is it too much? Jake asked, glancing at her as he worked. No, it's fine, she replied, though her voice trembled slightly. I could see the tears pooling in her eyes, and my heart twisted with conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to reach out to her, to comfort her in this vulnerable moment, but I held back. I needed her to feel this, to remember it as a lesson etched into her skin. Sarah, I said, my voice steady, this is a reminder of what you chose. It's not just a tattoo, it's a symbol of the trust you broke. I hope you understand that. She nodded, her expression a mixture of regret and acceptance. I know, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the needle. I messed up, I never meant to hurt you. Then why did you? I pressed, the anger and hurt bubbling to the surface. What was it that you were looking for with him? She hesitated, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't know. I thought I wanted something different, something exciting. I thought I was missing out on life, and I let my insecurities guide me. Her honesty struck a chord within me. I had always known she craved adventure, but I had thought that our life together was enough. The reality was that I had taken her for granted, assuming she would always be there, and in my complacency I had lost sight of her needs. As Jake continued to work, I felt the air grow heavy with unspoken words. I just want you to know that I'm sorry for what I did, she said, her voice trembling. I never wanted to hurt you. I was foolish. Foolish doesn't even begin to cover it, I replied sharply, my emotions spilling over. You don't just betray someone you love and think it's going to be okay. I know, she whispered, her voice cracking. I can't take it back. I can't change what happened, but I want to make it right. I want to fix us. Her words hung in the air, and I felt a flicker of hope mingled with skepticism. Could we really move past this? Could this tattoo serve as a catalyst for healing, or would it only deepen the wounds between us? As Jake finished the tattoo, he wiped away the excess ink, revealing the final result. I could see the intricate details of the broken chain link, a stark contrast against her skin. It was both beautiful and devastating, a constant reminder of her betrayal. All right, you're all set, Jake said, stepping back to admire his work. How do you feel? Sarah looked at the tattoo, her expression a mix of awe and dread. It's beautiful, she said softly, her fingers tracing the outline. But it's also painful. Good, I said, my voice firm. It should be. It's a reminder of your choices. Jake glanced between us, sensing the tension in the air. You know, tattoos can also be a form of healing. This could be a new beginning for you both if you choose to see it that way. I appreciated Jake's attempt to soften the moment, but I wasn't ready to embrace that idea just yet. The tattoo was a reminder, yes, but it was also a marker of the pain that lay between us. As we left the tattoo parlor, the weight of the moment settled heavily on my shoulders. I could see Sarah's eyes darting around, her mind racing as she processed what had just happened. We talk? She asked as we got into the car, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my heart pounding as I prepared for the conversation that awaited us. Yeah, we need to. We drove in silence for a few moments, the tension palpable. I could feel the emotions swirling between us, anger, regret, and a desperate need for understanding. Do you hate me? She finally asked, her voice trembling. I took a deep breath, trying to sort through my feelings. I don't hate you, Sarah, but I'm angry. I'm hurt, I just don't know if I can trust you again. I want to earn your trust back, she said, her eyes glistening with tears. I know I've shattered everything we built together, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. Words are easy, Sarah, I replied, my voice strained. It's actions that matter now. You've left a mark on our marriage, just like that tattoo. It's going to take time to heal. Her silence spoke volumes, and I could see the weight of my words settling in. This was going to be a long and difficult journey, and I wasn't sure if we would make it through together. But as I glanced at her, I realized that despite the pain, there was a flicker of hope. Perhaps this tattoo could serve as a turning point, a reminder of the love that still existed beneath the betrayal. As we pulled into our driveway, I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But for the first time since the affair, I felt a sense of determination. We would confront this together, one step at a time. The days following the tattoo were a mixture of tension and tentative attempts at rebuilding. Sarah wore her tattoo like a badge of shame, a constant reminder of her betrayal that she couldn't escape. I watched her as she navigated her daily life, her eyes often drifting to the ink that marked her skin. It was a haunting symbol of the choices she had made, and it was a weight we both carried. At first, I was consumed by anger. I would replay the moments of her infidelity in my mind, the images of her laughter with Jake, the intimacy they shared. It felt like a fresh wound that refused to heal. Every time I caught her glancing at the tattoo, I felt a pang of resentment. It was a reminder of my own inadequacies, of what I had failed to provide her. But as the days turned into weeks, I began to realize that this was not just about her betrayal. It was about our marriage and whether we could find a way back to each other. Sarah was trying. She was making an effort to communicate, to show me that she was willing to put in the work to mend our relationship. She would often sit across from me at the kitchen table, her eyes searching mine, waiting for a sign of forgiveness that I wasn't ready to give. "Can we talk about the tattoo?" she asked one evening, her voice soft and hesitant. I looked up from my coffee, the heat of the moment still fresh in my mind. "What about it?" "It's a reminder of my mistake, yes, but it's also a reminder of my commitment to fix things," she said, her voice steady. "I want to use it as a way to grow, to learn from this experience. I don't want it to just be a mark of shame." I sighed, feeling the weight of her words. "I understand that, but it's hard for me to see it that way. Every time I look at it, all I can think about is the pain of what you did." "I know," she replied, tears pooling in her eyes, "but I'm trying to show you that I'm serious about making things right. I don't want to lose you." I wanted to believe her, but the scars of betrayal were deep. I still felt the sting of her infidelity, and while I could see her efforts, I wasn't sure if they would be enough. As the weeks progressed, we began to establish a new routine, one that was built on honesty and vulnerability. We started attending couples therapy, a step that felt both necessary and daunting. The therapist encouraged us to express our feelings openly, to confront the pain head-on rather than letting it fester beneath the surface. In our sessions, I found myself struggling to articulate my emotions. The anger and hurt were still raw, and every time we delved into the details of her affair, I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crumble. I wanted to yell, to express how deeply she had wounded me, but I also wanted to understand her. I felt lost, Sarah admitted during one session, her voice trembling. "I didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling, and I made a terrible choice. I let my insecurities dictate my actions." "Why didn't you come to me?" I asked, my voice strained. "Why didn't you tell me you were feeling this way?" "I thought I could find what I was missing elsewhere," she replied, her eyes glistening. "But all I found was more pain. I realize now that I should have turned to you, not away from you." Her honesty struck a chord within me. It was a painful admission, but it was also a step toward healing. I wanted to believe that we could rebuild our relationship, but the road ahead was still uncertain. As therapy continued, I began to feel a shift in our dynamic. We were no longer just husband and wife. We were two individuals navigating the aftermath of betrayal, trying to find our way back to each other. I could see Sarah's determination to change, and it sparked a glimmer of hope within me. But then one evening, as we sat on the couch together, I noticed her staring at the tattoo, her expression distant. "What's on your mind?" I asked, concern creeping into my voice. "I don't know if I can ever fully make this right," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "No matter how much I try, I can't erase the hurt I caused you." "Maybe it's not about erasing it," I replied, my heart aching for her. "Maybe it's about learning from it and finding a way to move forward." She nodded, but I could see the doubt lingering in her eyes. "I just don't want to be defined by my mistakes. I want to be more than the woman who cheated on her husband." In that moment, I realized that we were both grappling with our identities in the wake of her betrayal. I was no longer just a husband. I was a man who had been deeply hurt and was now navigating the complexities of forgiveness. As we continued our journey, I began to see the tattoo as less of a mark of shame and more of a catalyst for change. It was a reminder of our struggle, but it was also a symbol of our commitment to healing together. Yet, despite the progress we were making, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still walking on a tightrope. The trust between us had been shattered, and while I wanted to believe in our future, the scars of the past still loomed large. As we moved forward, I knew we had a long way to go. But for the first time in a while, I felt a flicker of hope. We were both willing to fight for our marriage, and perhaps that was enough to guide us through the darkness. As time went on, the tattoo became less of a painful reminder and more of a symbol of resilience. It was a physical manifestation of the journey we had undertaken together, a journey filled with heartache, but also growth and understanding. Sarah began to wear her ink with a sense of pride, sharing its story with those who noticed it. It's a reminder of my past mistakes, but also of my commitment to change. She would say, her voice steady. In our therapy sessions, we continued to peel back the layers of our relationship. The discussions were often difficult, but they were essential. I learned to express my feelings more openly, while Sarah became more attuned to my needs. She was learning to be vulnerable, and I was learning to be forgiving. Together, we were navigating the complex landscape of love and trust, slowly rebuilding what had been broken. One evening, after a particularly intense session, we sat together on the couch, the weight of our conversation lingering in the air. I turned to her, my heart full of emotion. "I've realized something," I said, my voice tentative. "This experience has changed me, and I think it's changed us. We've faced the worst of it, and we're still here." "I know," she replied, her eyes glistening. "I never imagined I could hurt you so deeply, and I've learned so much about myself in the process. I'm grateful for this second chance, even if it took something so painful to get here." In that moment, I felt a surge of hope. Perhaps we could emerge from this stronger than before. The journey of healing was still ongoing, but I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. We were beginning to find our way back to each other, and the love that had once felt lost was starting to resurface. As we continued to work on our relationship, I found myself reflecting on the lessons I had learned. Trust, once broken, could be rebuilt, but it required effort and vulnerability from both sides. I had to let go of the anger that had consumed me and allow myself to be open to the possibility of forgiveness. "Do you think we can ever truly move on from this?" I asked her one night, the question heavy in the air. "I hope so," she replied, her voice soft. "I know it won't be easy, but I believe we can. We're both committed to making this work, and that means everything to me." Her words resonated deep within me. I realized that while the tattoo would always be a reminder of her infidelity, it would also serve as a testament to our resilience. It was a symbol of our journey, a reminder that we had faced adversity and emerged stronger. As months passed, I began to feel a shift within myself. The anger that had once consumed me started to fade, replaced by a sense of understanding. I could see Sarah's efforts, her determination to rebuild our life together. We started to create new memories, focusing on the future rather than dwelling on the past. One day, as we sat together in the park, I glanced at her tattoo, the ink glistening in the sunlight. "You know," I said, "that tattoo has become something more than just a reminder of your mistake. It's a symbol of our journey together. It shows that we've faced the storm and come out the other side." Sarah smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "I never thought of it that way. It's a part of my story now, and I'm glad we're writing a new chapter together." In that moment, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. We were no longer defined by her betrayal. We were two individuals who had fought for our love and chosen to heal together. As we walked hand in hand, I realized that while the scars of the past would always be there, they no longer held power over us. We had learned to embrace the journey, to cherish the love that had endured despite the pain. In the end, I knew that love was not just about perfection. It was about resilience, understanding, and the willingness to grow. We had faced the darkness together, and now we were stepping into the light, ready to embrace whatever came next. This journey had taught me that even in the face of betrayal, love could prevail. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And as we looked toward the future, I felt a sense of hope blooming within me, a hope that we could continue to heal, to grow, and to love each other more deeply than ever before. In that moment, I understood the true power of forgiveness and the strength that comes from overcoming adversity together. And with that realization, I knew our story was far from over.